talk to my next guest now. He's Conservative peer Craig Mackinlay, now Lord Mackinlay, and joins us. Good afternoon to you.
Hi there, Julia.
Lovely to see you.
Can I start with saying I'm pretty annoyed with talkTV because in advance of this this session, I actually watched that dirge for 25 minutes. I'd have had 25 minutes of my life back. But listen. I got so bored. I ended up getting my phone out and sort of having a little sort of wade through Twitter because it might have been more exciting. And I'm glad I did. And I'll tell you why. And I'll give him credit for it. I came across Harry Cole's tweet, which made me laugh. Yeah. And it had, if you don't mind me reading it, 3 foundations, 5 missions, 6 milestones, 7 pillars of growth. And a wag put under that, 5 milliband power cuts.
Totally.
3 dodged questions, 2 empty promises, and a manifesto in the bin. So
well done, Harry Cole. Political editor of The Sun, by the way. Political editor of The Sun.
I didn't get much out of it, to be honest with you, but...
No, can I just point out, though, it's a good thing you did have a look at Twitter and that cheered you up, because otherwise I was worrying that they wouldn't be able to get you on the phone line because you'd been fast asleep, because it was a Keir Starmer speech.
But we did, for those who like to get the bingo card out when Sir Keir Starmer, our dear PM, speaks, we did have Smash the Gangs. So if we say it enough, it might just happen, but I doubt there was anything or a plan that will move towards that. And of course, we did get fixing the foundations. And without fixing the foundations, it really wouldn't be a prime ministerial speech these days.
It really wouldn't. I mean, the thing about this, I don't know if anyone pays that much attention during an election, because everyone knew that it was quite obvious that the numbers didn't add up, etc. That there weren't, and there was this whole mandate for change. But actually, of course, we didn't really know what the change would be. There really wasn't anything very substantive there. None of this is very substantive. And as, you know, my military man, Philip Ingram, points out, you know, unless you say how you're going to do it, what it's going to cost, when you're going to do it, by these sort of missions, targets, aims, milestones, call them what you want, they're fairly meaningless, aren't they?
Oh, completely meaningless. These were just sort of, you know, wild ambitions with very little chance of getting them done, and no plan that I could perceive of actually achieving it. But my real worry is that we're going to get one of these every 150 days. Yeah. The popularity sinks even further for the PM and the Labour Party. What is now sitting at -32, which I think is a record. I think it took Tony Blair many years actually to get to any level of sort of people not being enthused with him. But no, this PM has got there very, very quickly, and every week brings another disaster. Yeah. And we have yet to see, because you know, don't forget, Julie, we haven't actually seen what that budget really means on the ground, because at the moment it's only a finance bill in the eye of the Chancellor. That hasn't actually landed. The NIC rate increases have not hit employers. Yeah. You have not had the madness of the Deputy Prime Minister, not Pat McFadden, actually Angela Rayner, as we know, her employers' rights bill, where I think yesterday on the interview she couldn't actually find one business who supported it. These are going to be job-destroying measures. We're now going to live through the first winter of a Miliband madness on net zero, which will only get worse. So heaven knows where we're going to be come the spring. Probably going to be having another one of these sessions.
Of course we are.
It all sounds like Starling on a good day, doesn't it? Where we are going to produce 5,000 new tractors and have 1 million tons of new grain. Yeah. It had that written all over it.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, and also, I always love how, especially the question and answer sessions afterwards, how tetchy the Prime Minister gets about anyone daring to question him. You get the impression that most of his career, no one's ever dared to actually ask him any questions. He sort of thinks it's he takes quite a offence at it.
He doesn't like questions very much at all. Now, the one thing, and I'm trying to give him credit somewhere. I do actually agree with the ambition on trying to get things built, trying to get infrastructure built.
I mean, you lot ballsed it up, didn't you? You lot were bleeding useless.
It's very rare that I actually these days say that we ran a fantastic government for the last 14 years, Julie, you know that. But if he thinks he can get infrastructure done on the back of the Climate Change Act, where activists go to the Supreme Court, which tends to uphold their requirements that just about everything you try and do will have a CO2 output attached to it, and therefore it can't be done. So I think he's kidding us, frankly. And what do you think the chances are? We ought to have a little national bingo, national lottery. How many of those 1.5 million new homes are going to actually be built in the next 4.5 years? I would say 700, 800,000.
Can I just say, though, You guys had the same pledge, 1.5 million over 5 years is 250,000 a year. That's what your lot pledged. Didn't build all of them. And a lot of that's down to a planning issue. But you guys you were scared off about doing the planning because you worried you would lose seats, but you lost them anyway, and people haven't had the new homes. The whole thing is, at the end of this, when we sit there and say this government is useless, everyone we speak to, whether it's the callers, my guests, on air and off air, say, I knew it would be bad. I didn't realise it would be this bad. But the general view at the time was when people didn't vote Tory, because there wasn't a big vote for Labour, it was not voting Tory, either didn't vote or voted for Reform or an alternative. Basically, it was like, it can't be any worse than this useless lot. Oh, my God, it is.
And so rapidly as well. That's the thing. So very rapidly. No, I mean, you know my thoughts about some of the things that my party did in government.
Yep.
You could argue that the big pressure on housing is not assisted by the huge number of legal migrants. Forget the illegals, the legal migrants that we allowed in. And, you know, I don't bear direct responsibility, but I have a degree of sadness and shame that was on our watch, and I just do not understand how on earth that happened.
If they listened to you on net zero migration, lockdown, and the impact of that on all the policies that we've been talking to you about for a number of years, Craig,
well, I mean,
then your government would probably have won another term in office.
It would have been better. I mean, it does make me laugh. Everyone's forgotten about the lockdown. We've forgotten about COVID. And even the Prime Minister then seems to have forgotten that. He's saying, oh, well, during the last Parliament, people's living standards didn't go up. Yeah. Well, no, they didn't go up because we had the economy closed down for nearly half the period. Yeah. And we spent £500 billion in support of the country, mainly borrowing. And I'm just guessing where most of that money went. It probably went, a lot of it went on new tellies on people's walls bought in China. So there wasn't much good came out of it. And then he sort of says, well, there was no increase in the last 5 years. His opposition wanted an earlier lockdown, deeper, and I wonder if we'd actually be out of it now.
No, well, exactly. And again, that's just my thinking on, and that's why a lot of voters go on plague on all your houses. When he says he's not putting, he says an arbitrary number for reducing net migration, legal migration or illegal. I mean, you know, he says he's going to smash the gangs, but he says there's no point in having something arbitrary. He just says you need a serious plan. We've been told the plan for dealing with the smuggling gangs. I'm not particularly hopeful personally. I think that the pull factors are too strong, that it won't really work. But there isn't a plan. The reality is, Tories didn't really have a plan at getting legal migration down. Labour certainly don't. I mean, they are philosophically wedded to the idea of open borders to all intents and purposes. But can you be serious about improving people's living standards, which is, you know, raising real household disposable income, his first milestone? Can you be serious about tackling waiting lists and building more homes for people, you know, and things like that, if you are letting in 1 million new people a year?
Well, yeah, I don't see that the two can rub together. I mean, he accused us of having an open border plan in last week's speech, if you remember that one. But no, I don't have any confidence in it. I mean, you know my idea. I mean, let's just separate the illegals from the legals. They're two different things.
Completely.
They're big discussion points, both of them. But the legal migration, I've always been fairly sanguine about numbers for students, because students can be an export. That's no great issue with that, if I'm really honest. I did have a great issue when you were then allowed to bring in your entire family, mums, dads, aunties, uncles, on the back of that. That seemed a little strange, because I don't know any other country that is so liberal about that. Latterly, we did close down that loophole, a pretty obvious one, you'd have thought.
Only when the public found out about it?
Well, yes, possibly. But I would say our number that we require of legal migration is, you do two things. You look at this skills gap, your proper skills gap of people that have got unusual skills that our universities have not been able to create in the right numbers. They're the type of migration that we'd all agree with, the top level skills. And once you've done that, you look at your own domestic workforce for perhaps the lower level jobs. It cannot be right we have 8 million people on a form of working age benefit. Yeah. We surely should have a benefit system that makes these people go to work. Yeah. If you don't want to go to work, that's fine, but I don't want to pay for it. Exactly. And once you've exhausted your work pool of your standard jobs, then and only then should you look at importing new people? So to me, that does go back to dear David Cameron's potentially tens of thousands. We didn't achieve it. I know Labour won't achieve it. But I'm sorry to say, this is the issue of the day, because no matter if you're in a working man's club in Doncaster or a posh club in London, everybody is talking about it and everybody is sick to death of it. So please, Conservative Party, do something about it now. Be believed on it, or unfortunately, somebody else might.
Absolutely. Lord Craig Mackinlay, Conservative peer, thank you very much indeed. Philip Ingram still with me. I said to Craig there, we've been talking to him for a long time. He's been a fantastic campaigner on virtually all things sane. He really has. I've always been of the view, you know, if the government had listened more to him on these things, they wouldn't have been in the mess they were in when the Tories were in charge. I've got much less faith that the Labour Party will listen to any of that.
Well, I don't think they will listen at all, and it's good to hear him setting out, you know, the fact that he recognised that there were big issues in the last government, the Tory government. I just wish that those that are in opposition at the minute would admit they made mistakes much more openly.
Kemi Badenoch has kind of shied away from a bit of that, hasn't she?
She has, and I think, you know, if the Tories want a proper reset, they have to turn around and admit they got things badly wrong, and it's part of the Tories' fault for that Labour have come in at the moment.
Well, I mean, certainly on the immigration issue, I mean, so the Prime Minister has said, you know, we are going to drive down migration, both legal and illegal. That will only be done with a serious plan, but he won't put an arbitrary number. But it's not arbitrary.
It's not arbitrary.
I mean, it might be arbitrary in terms of, like, between sort of, I don't know, whether it was, you know, 120,000 or 130,000. I mean, that, you know, OK, something in that region. But a ballpark, when you ask people, give me a ballpark of roughly how many people do you think we should import to the country? But also this idea, I still find it fascinating, this idea that, oh, we don't have enough doctors. Well, OK, I know we can't magically train up, but can we have a deliberate policy that we train up 7,000, you know, more medics every year?